In 1960, two men climbed into a steel sphere and dropped into the deepest place on Earth, the Mariana Trench, nearly 7 miles down, into crushing pressure and total darkness. They came back up and humanity barely went back. Not really, not for decades. 9 years later, we were walking on the moon. Think about that. We've sent more missions to a celestial body 240,000 miles away than we've sent to the deepest trench on our own planet. Just 7 miles beneath the waves we sail across every day. So here's a question that's quietly bothered researchers, divers, and even a few people who've worked inside the space program. Why does it seem like we tried so hard to leave Earth and so little to understand what's directly underneath it? The official answer is simple. The ocean is harder to explore than space. And on the surface, that's true. Water absorbs radio waves, which is part of why GPS and most communication systems don't work underwater. Pressure at extreme depths can crush submarines built from solid steel. Visibility drops to zero almost instantly. In some ways, sending a probe to Mars really is more straightforward, engineering-wise, than sending one to the bottom of the Pacific. But here's where it gets strange. NASA's budget, even decades after Apollo, has run into the billions every single year. Ocean exploration, across every agency combined, has historically received a tiny fraction of that. NOAA, the agency most responsible for studying America's oceans, has often operated on a budget smaller than what a single Hollywood studio spends on visual effects in 1 year. We've mapped the surface of Venus, a planet wrapped in thick, toxic clouds, in more detail than we've mapped our own ocean floor. By most current estimates, more than 80% of Earth's ocean remains completely unmapped and unexplored. That gap is where the theories begin. The first one isn't even really a theory. It's declassified history that sounds like fiction. When the wreck of the Titanic was finally found in 1985, the public was told it was a triumph of deep-sea exploration. What wasn't revealed until years later was that the expedition's real funding came from the U.S. Navy, and its real mission was classified, locating the wreckage of two sunken nuclear submarines, the USS Thresher and USS Scorpion. Finding the Titanic was, by the explorer's own later admission, basically a cover story. If something that significant stayed hidden for decades in plain sight, it raises an obvious question. What else has the deep ocean been used to hide? From there, the theories get more speculative. One idea, popular among independent researchers and former military personnel who've spoken about it anonymously online, is that the deep ocean wasn't neglected by accident. It was deliberately kept dark. During the Cold War, the entire strategy of nuclear deterrence depended on submarines being able to disappear into total silence and total darkness. A well-mapped, well-lit, well-studied ocean floor is the opposite of what a hidden submarine fleet needs. Some argue that funding which could have gone toward open civilian ocean research was quietly redirected into classified naval programs instead, keeping the deep sea a controlled space rather than a public one. A second theory points not to secrecy, but to resources. The deep ocean floor is rich in rare earth minerals, cobalt, and manganese nodules, materials critical to modern electronics and military technology. Because most of the deep sea falls outside any single nation's territory, mapping it in detail is also, in a sense, mapping out who might have a claim to what's down there. Some researchers suggest that leaving large portions of the ocean officially unexplored has kept those resource questions conveniently unresolved. And then there's the simplest, most cynical theory of all. Space was just a better story. The Cold War needed a stage the entire world could watch happen, live, on television. Endless miles of dark water doesn't make for great TV. A flag planted on the moon does. Whether or not you believe anything is actively being hidden down there, almost everyone studying this agrees on one thing. The ocean never got its own version of the space race, and that wasn't only about difficulty. It was, at least in part, a choice about where attention, funding, and national pride would be pointed. That choice has consequences we're still living with today. We know the surface of Mars better than we know a trench less than 7 miles from where some of you are sitting right now. Nearly every time a real deep-sea expedition has actually been funded, it's turned up new species, shipwrecks, or geological features nobody knew existed, which raises the obvious follow-up question: what else is still down there that simply hasn't been funded to find? Maybe it really is just about difficulty and cost, exactly the way the official story goes. Or maybe it's also about what's more convenient to leave in the dark. Either way, the next time someone tells you humanity has explored everything, remember this: we currently know more about the far side